the one thing that we'll get into the Stephanopoulos interview for a second. The one thing I gave him quasi credit, and I want to be clear on that quasi, is that at least he kept saying like, my fault, I wasn't. And that was smart after all the narrative about the staff. And here he is again. It's everyone else's fault. It's the elitist fault for asking him to drop out. It's like, dude, you don't get it, do you? It's not the elitists that are the problem here.
Yeah.
Well, so if you've noticed, this is a shift in his messaging. And I think it's really intentional because it pairs really well with where the campaign is really trying to shore up their support. Now, President Biden is saying, oh, my real support, my backbone are the blue collar workers, the union workers, and the black folks. And just watch me. Like in that interview, he's like, oh, I know the black folks. I've got black friends. Just watch me. When I go to the black church, they link arms with me and I clap off beat, so it's not surprising he's trying to distance himself from the East Coast, West Coast elites and make himself seem like the traditional old Joe that from around the way. It falls flat because when he talked about from an economic standpoint how his number one job has been to make the economy great and level the playing field. Well, what playing field do we have now? And consumer prices 20% higher than before. Whether you're talking about the poor in this country, middle class is feeling the pinch, and even wealthy people are starting to feel it now. So I guess maybe that's what he's delivered. He's delivered pain for everybody. It's not going to work, Joe.
The thing that's funny, Patrice, you touched on something, and I don't know if it just sort of triggered a thought I had over the weekend that I want to fully express now. After the debate, Biden goes out there to that rally and says, I may not walk like I used to, I may not talk like I used to, but I know how to tell the truth.
Folks, let me close with this. I know I'm not a young man. State the obvious. I don't walk as easy as I used to. I don't speak as smoothly as I used to. I don't debate as well as I used to. But I know what I do know. I know how to tell the truth.
And I thought to myself, are you kidding me? Since you ran for president, the narrative has been that you plagiarize, you exaggerate, you make up stories, right? And I feel like that's the Achilles heel that the Republicans and the Trump campaign needs to go after. So one thing that they are sort of like the message that I picked up all weekend. No one wanted to talk about his record. They wanted to talk about democracy versus an honest guy or whatever. And I kept thinking, really, he can't. He talks about his friendships, Corn Pop. Being, a professor at the university of this, graduating, having a full scholarship. And it's literally one, we call it what you will, a gaffe, a lie, an exaggeration. But for a guy to go out there and say the one thing I have, Larry O'Connor, is the truth. And I'm like, dude, your narrative prior to this week where that you plagiarized, over and over again, that you're a gaffe machine, a liar, an exaggerator. And that's what you want to hang your campaign on now?
Yeah, exactly. I think the Washington Post is for Pinocchio'd this guy the entire presidential administration, which is saying something because the Washington Post loves this man because, well, they're also part of the elitists. I think you're right. The Trump campaign should go after him on all of his lies. I mean, he actually perpetuated the Charlottesville find people on both sides lie during the debate. That's just a couple of days after a very well-known fact-checking website called it for what it is, which is a lie. Also at the debate, Sean, probably the most despicable lie a president can say, when he claimed that not one troop was lost on his watch as president. I don't care. Listen, a lot of things that Donald Trump may have said may have not passed the fact checker, but that one lie from Joe Biden is so despicable and so insulting to the American people and to those Gold Star families that the Trump team should hammer it every single day.
And I agree with you 100%, just so we're clear that I'm on the same page. But my point is that his narrative, it's not just in the last week
or
at
his legacy, his career.
Yeah, going back to the 70s, it's been like making up stories about he got a full scholarship. He was he got accepted to the Naval Academy. Not true, not true, not true, not true. He has been lying for decades. I mean, that should be the thing. Joe Biden lying for decades and just boom, 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 boom. I agree with you on the debate stuff. Those are policy issues. He lies about himself. I took the Amtrak here. I did this. I did that. Those are all lies. And he gets away with it. And like I said, my point in saying this is that the one thing that they're leaving out there right now is saying, despite all of the bad record that we have, at least I tell the truth. And my point is, zero in on that and go,
They didn't have
boom.
that.
No, you don't.
Yeah, absolutely underscore that, because it's interesting. People now, the campaign and the left wants voters to weigh the candidates based on their character, and
see that?
character difference
I
being
love that you
about
brought that up. Love it. It's a sleight of hand. Forget the record. Look over here,
it's just
shiny
about the
nickel.
person. Well, and here's the thing: if you weigh these two gentlemen, you can say, okay, well, one embellishes, the other embellishes. So take that off the table, and what are you left with? You're left with mental acuity, leadership strength, and I mean that's pretty, and probably oratory skills, right? In which case, if a regular person is saying, okay, lying off the table, record off the table, and by the way, the record is pretty bad for Biden, financially at least, when I look at my finances, then who am I voting for? A guy who promised to be the unifying chief, who's lied through the nose and leaves me with lint in my pocket. And so I hope that that's where we start to see the messaging from the media or from the conservatives and those who are trying to call out Biden. That's where they should go. I'm glad you raised this.
Patrice Onwuka for campaign manager and chief strategist, because that's exactly what we need. Is that take these things off the table, because they just keep trying to shift the narrative. Don't focus on our record, focus on this, right?
Well, and if I could throw one more thing to take off there, because they keep saying Trump's a threat to democracy. Is there a bigger threat to democracy than a president who is incapable of actually carrying out the duties of the job mentally and physically, and then a team around him covering that truth up? And you talk about lies. They're lying about whether the president can actually serve in office. That's a threat to democracy.
Exactly. Yeah, I know. Again, let's not focus on that. But let's just go back to this interview for a second. I was going to, this threw a little bit of a wrench into this, but let's focus on this. In this interview this morning with Biden, he blames the elitists. He's defiant. I'm staying in this race. I will be the nominee, which in itself is pathetic that you have to say that. But let me ask you, where are we, Larry O'Connor? If you said to yourself, in a week from now, when I look back on this, is it he's locking this thing down? Is the dam broken? Where do you assess this right now?
Yeah, we entered the weekend with a good handful of House Democrats publicly saying that he should step down. And then that rumor that Mark Warner, the senator from Virginia, who was pretty well respected in the Democratic Party, that he was putting together a group of elder statesmen to go and talk to the president about withdrawing his name. That disappeared. I don't know if this is pressure from Jill Biden. I don't know if Barack Obama and the powers that be and donors have determined that the best way forward is to just stick with their guy, or if they recognize it's going to be a very ugly fight. I thought we were heading into a weekend where Joe Biden was dead man walking, politically speaking.
You don't think he is?
A week from now, yeah, I still don't think they can do it. I think they got to pull the trigger on him, and I think they got to get him out. The problem is they got to convince him. And
but that's the breaking down. I felt like, in sixth grade when they used to analyze the sentences. Who's the they?
Yeah. I think that it's a combination of the donors and the power structure from Team Obama. There are a lot of people within the administration who are holdovers from the Obama administration that have been actually writing policy for this president. I think that Joe Biden and the Biden team know that the Obama people still have a strong sway on the party. Listen, if Barack Obama comes up and says, I love Joe Biden like a brother, but we can't go forward with him, it's over.
Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.